Stay right in line with each other and keep your strongest hand in front. Is that the one you... Okay. You laughing. All right. You can laugh. The kids don't get it. All right. Last thing. Don't pull too hard. It's not a tug of war. You keep it straight. Hopefully I don't fall off. Oh, God. This will have to be good enough. Folks, if I could ask a quick favor. Everyone over here. Everyone over here. Everyone over here. Can you guys take about 3 or 4 steps closer, right up to the line I drew on the ground with the water, yeah? Especially over there. You guys mind coming a bit closer? It's very important to me to have a nice, intimate audience. So if you guys wouldn't mind, come in nice and close. I want to give you my best. Thanks a lot. Now I do have, hey, what are you doing? Don't shoot me, man. I've got a lot of guys helping me out here. I also need to choose a beautiful lady. Excuse me. That was good, wasn't it? I'm just kidding. What's your name? Jill, wait there. Ladies and gentlemen, Jill is the last person I'm going to choose. So you can all relax. Jill's a lady. She deserves a big round of applause. Let's hear it for Jill. Come on, folks. Entrance music. Dramatic entrance music. Take my hand, Jill. I need you to help me out for a couple of minutes. Goodbye. I want you to just stand over there on that brick. I have a very special job for you. What's the other one? Here you go. Hold my balls. Thanks. I've got 5. I'm special. I want you to throw the balls to me when I climb up there. Are you a good throw? Don't worry. I'm a good catch. Not everyone got that joke, sir. Alright, so I need the balls. I also need this. Now don't throw this. If you throw it, that man over there will die. Now I have this other racket. I'm going to loop it over the top. I want you to hand me the whole thing just like that, alright? I'll put it here. Now that's not all. We're going to make things a bit more dangerous. I'm also going to be using machetes. Not just 1. Not 2, not 3, 3. These are Razorback machetes. They're really dangerous. Just be careful. You give me all those things, I'll do the rest. Cool? All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this show is about to get dangerous. Not for her, not for you, but for these men. Because I'm going to be standing up there throwing machetes. I want these guys to trust me. So I'm going to show them right now that I juggle this. If you want to see it, Boston, say yeah! Yeah! If you want to see it at top speed, say yeah! Yeah! If you're going to put a 20 in my bag at the end, stay quiet. And that works. Chainsaw juggling is a very dangerous stunt. Sir, would you verify for the audience that the chainsaw is real? I'll turn it on. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Perfect. Now hold out your arm. Thanks, man. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, it's my grand finale. If I can get you guys to make a lot of noise when I do this, that'd be awesome. We'll get the rest of the people over here to see my big trick. Can I quickly ask, just these 5 people here, you guys come a few steps closer, stand right on this line so people don't walk through the middle when I'm doing the dangerous stuff. Thanks. Here we go. I'm also available for children's parties. All right, for the big finale, everyone hands up like this. Not you, just hold the rope. Everyone else, hands up. If you don't do it, I'm going to kiss you on the lips. Please put your hands up, sir. Everyone together, one big clap. It was great individually. Come on, together, in a rhythm. That's it. Ready, men? Hold your arms like this, face each other. I'm going to take a running start. Nice and strong. Little gap here. I'll be right back. I have to pee. Come on. Hey. Okay. Sorry. Hold on. Can you move your thumb? Wait, hey, what are you doing? Are you two okay? I wasn't talking to you two. Yeah, I'm standing up now. Don't look up. It's laundry day. How about a round of applause for these two guys? Guys, can you walk over there? Together? Whoa, this is harder than it looks. Perfect, thanks guys. I finally got that dog crap off my shoe. Guys, I'm gonna jump up. When I jump up, you grab the pole. This one. You'd be surprised. Guys, don't shake the pole. If you shake it, I'll get nervous up there and I'll pee on you. You guys on the ropes? My life is in your hands. So you have to watch me. If it looks like I'm falling on you, I am. If I point in your direction, pull the rope a little bit. If I do this, loosen the rope a little bit. Can you all tighten your ropes just a little bit more, yeah? Pull this one a bit more. Okay. Ready, guys? I'm going to jump up, you grab it. Uh-oh. I'm going up. Come here. Thank you, sir. Can you pull this one? Oh, don't pull this one. Hashtag moose knuckle. Okay, pull this one a little bit. Yep, and this one a little bit. Okay. It didn't look this big on the internet. Pull this one a little bit. Okay.
Wow!
Yeah. Hey everyone, come over here. We're talking about Jesus. Hey, where are you going? I didn't leave when you got here. Alright folks, if you have an attention span, I've only got like 3 minutes left. Are you ready? Can you put the balls down and get the machetes? I want you to throw them at that man that hasn't been clapping. Just kidding. Where are you from? Maine. Alright, just hand them to me then. Well, loosen this out a bit.
Yeah, the North End here, guys, is our Italian district. I grew up here. When I grew up here, it was about 150% Italian. Today, it's about 30% Italian. Although it has maintained a strong Italian culture where there are over 100 Italian restaurants here in the North End, including Mike's Pastry Shop. Yep. Now, this area being, it's the oldest residential community in the city. So from the 1830s to about the 1940s, we had a wave of immigration come in from around the world, including all of my grandparents, Syria and Sicily. They settled here, mostly in the North End. 14,000 people in 1 square mile. It was a slum. It was tenement-like living. It was very hard to live here. during those days. So people from around the world, such as, I mentioned Sicily and Syria, Poland, Germany, Africa, you name it, crowded down here in the North End. So over here is Battery Wharf. When we were occupied by British troops from 1768 to 1776, that's where they stored their ammunition. Nowadays here in the North End, there are only about 6,000 people living here, and it's pretty crowded today. Yeah, it's very, very tight living quarters. So you can imagine what it was like with 14,000 people. But today, another big difference is that it's very exclusive. The average rent here is about $2,500, $3,000. And you're not even going to get anything great for that price. You got to go up. I know. Yeah, very pricey. Over here on the right is the Coast Guard station. This used to be the Edmund Hott shipyard. That's where the USS Constitution was built in 1797. The oldest commissioned naval warship in the world. We're going to drive by her in a few more minutes. And up here on the left, up the street here, is the steeple of the Old North Church, 1723. It's the oldest church in the city, and it's where Robert Newman, the sexton, was to have hung one or two lanterns to alert Paul Revere which way the British troops were heading up towards Lexington and Concord. 1, if by land, 2, if by sea. So Paul Revere and his friends, they weren't an army yet, had some rowboats over here just in case. 2 lanterns were hung. There were British naval warships moored out there, and it was nighttime. So they wrapped their oars in clothing so they wouldn't make so much of a splash. And they weaved in and out about the British naval warships, and they safely made it over to the other side. And that's where we're going to be heading in a minute. The British were heading up towards Lexington and Concord to arrest Sam Adams and John Hancock. They were the 2 leading rebel rousers of the day. And they were hiding up there from the British. They were wanted by them simply for being rebels. And the British also wanted to confiscate ammunition that we were hoarding leading up to the American Revolution. Over here on the right, on this site, we had a gas tank-like structure. It was filled with molasses, and it was a warm winter day, January of that year. And the molasses expanded in the tank, contributing to the tank exploding. Thousands of gallons of molasses through the North End, 30 miles an hour, 20 feet high. It's called the strangest tragedy in U.S. history. It's also called the Great Molasses Flood. There is a book written about it called Dark Tide. The guy who owned the tank was held culpable in that he knew the tank was leaking on the bottom seam, and instead of fixing it, he painted the tank tan. I know. People over here on the North End would come over with empty buckets and fill them up. The seam that was leaking. The rivets on the bottom bursted out so loudly from the blast, the power of the molasses, it sounded to the residents here like machine gun fire. And the power of the flow twisted iron girders here that were holding up our elevated trolley system at the time. On the right, across the water, the stone gray obelisk with a pointy top, that's the Bunker Hill Monument. That's where the Battle of Bunker Hill happened on June 1775, and that's the famous battle where you probably heard the famous term, "Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes." And that was said simply because we were low on ammunition. About 1,000 British troops were killed in that battle. Approximately 600 colonists were killed in that battle. It was the bloodiest battle in the American Revolution. At the end of that battle, both sides claimed that they won. The British, because technically they did win, they took over the hill. We claimed we won from a morale point of view, as we had taken out almost twice as many men. Remember, we still weren't an army yet, so for us it was a big win. General Gage, one of the British generals, was taken to task by the King of England at the time, by him saying to him, "If we win any more battles like that, we're going to lose the war." So the British had won, or they thought they won, because they had taken over the hill. And we claimed we won because we thought we had taken out more men, which we did. So remember, this whole trolley during those days, if we wanted to we could go up and fight the good fight. We weren't an army yet, and we were fighting the biggest, best, and brightest army in the world at that time, the British, who had uniforms, provisions, wartime experience, wartime leadership. We had none of those things. Until George Washington came up in the summer, right after the Battle of Bunker Hill in July of that year, and in Cambridge, Mass, organized all these townspeople into the first U.S. Army. He called them the Continental Army. Here is, on the right, is the USS Constitution. Nice ship, huh? It's the original. Yeah, she never lost a battle in all her time at sea. Very seaworthy. And the way she keeps her oldest commissioned naval warship status is by traveling 1 nautical mile per year. But we don't unnecessarily tax her. We pull her on tugboats. But we know she can do the job on her own. There are tours if you care to later on go on. They're free. The U.S. Navy gives a tour. It's a national park. You do need a photo ID if you're over 18. Her nickname's Old Ironsides. Old Ironsides. She got that from a battle she was in 1812 with the Guerriere. The Guerriere were firing cannonballs over towards her, and they could have sworn that the cannonballs were bouncing off the side of the ship, and they thought, oh my God, she must be made of iron. When in fact, she's made out of wood, 2 feet thick on either side, but it's very hardy wood. It's called live Georgian oak. If you carved a softball-sized piece of it and dropped it into the ocean, it would sink immediately to the ocean floor. It's very strong. We have a grove of those live Georgian oak trees down in Georgia that we maintain, so we can do repairs on her. So here is the Charlestown Navy Yard, established in the 1830s, abruptly shut down in 1976 by the Richard Nixon administration. We were the only state in the United States that did not vote for him. Yeah, we had bumper stickers at the time that read, "Don't blame me, I'm from Massachusetts." But those were different times back in those days, right? Here we are in Charlestown. Boston proper has about 670,000 people. Charlestown is one of 43 neighborhoods of the city. And with that, it's about 2 million. Anyone on board see the movie The Heat with Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock?
Yeah.
Right here is where they filmed Sandra Bullock's apartment, and particularly at the end when Melissa McCarthy comes over with the cat and she says to Sandra Bullock, "Is this yours?" That was Sandra Bullock's apartment. You guys, that's a great movie, I think. It was The Heat. I've seen it 100 times. It's really fun. It's really, yeah. I mean, I like it. I have the DVD. Here in Charlestown is where the Puritans landed in 1630. They named it after their king, King Charles. Prior to the 1980s, Charlestown was the bank robbery capital of the U.S. The movies The Town and Mystic River were made about this area. I remember it clearly. I had a couple of friends over here and never felt comfortable coming over here. I felt it was too dangerous. So Charlestown, like a lot of our other neighborhoods, have upgraded. So today Charlestown is an exclusive neighborhood. The average cost of an 800 square foot condominium starts at around $700,000. Very pricey, right? Yeah, very, and it's a safe neighborhood. I'd walk around here day or evening myself, no worries. I'm pretty sure the only bank robbery going on down here these days is Whole Foods. We're on Warren Street. It's named after Dr. Joseph Warren, who was one of the leaders leading us into the American Revolution. He was the leader of the Sons of Liberty, which was the secret organization here in the city plotting against the British troops. He fought on the Battle of Bunker Hill. He was killed instantly. If he had survived, most likely he would have been our next president. Over here on the right is Paul Revere Park. That's where Paul Revere, after he crossed over that little waterway on the left of us, left from on a horse with several other riders to head up towards Lexington and Concord, which is this way, about 17 miles northwest of the city, to alert the countryside that the redcoats or the regulars are out. The cement pillars denote the famous line in the Henry Wadsworth Longfellow poem, "One if by land, two if by sea." Paul Revere and several of the other riders never made it all the way to the end. They were stopped along the way by British checkpoints, apprehended and arrested. Coming up on the left, right across the water, right behind that tree line, that's the steeple of the Old North Church. In 1775, that was the tallest point in the city, hence the hanging of the lanterns there. And on the right is TD Garden, home to our Boston Bruins and our Celtics. Guys, you all know we're a big sports town, right? We got the Pats and we got the Red Sox. We have Fenway Park, 1912, the oldest ballpark in the country. And we have Tom Brady. You guys ever hear him?
No.
No. It's okay. I'm not a huge sports fan, but during the summertime, I was taking some informal polling on board to see, did he do it or not do it? I know. It feels like more people think he did do it. The deflate, oh, I'm sorry, the deflate gate.
Specify which thing it is.
Maybe battle there. Yeah, I thought maybe.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the tour or the trolley? Are you guys from a cruise ship? You're not? You're not from a cruise ship?
A cruise bus.
A cruise bus? Where's the bus going? Where? Pennsylvania? Oh, okay. So you're all from Pennsylvania? Oh, okay. Oh, I've never been to Pennsylvania. Yeah, Pennsylvania. How long of a bus ride is it?
5 hours.
Oh, that's not bad. On the right up here is the Bobby Orr statue. That's him winning the 1970 Stanley Cup Championship. So it's made from an actual photograph taken of him making that scoring goal. The reason it's famous is because of the way he made the scoring goal. The other team tripped him, and he was in midair because it was so hard. And if you notice his hockey stick, he swung in midair. That's why that's famous. And he scored. It was in the fourth period overtime. It was the fourth goal of the game. His shirt is number 4. He and a couple of buddies opened up a bar down on Canal Street, a couple of streets down on the left-hand side, called the Fours. Do you notice he has no helmet and no teeth? So we're in the West End. This is one of the last neighborhoods to be built up. It's a neighborhood in transition. For example, the apartments over here on the left, the new building, $6,700 for a 2-bedroom. However, I personally wouldn't walk through here at night after 9 o'clock. Yeah, it's that kind of neighborhood. It's up and coming. Now, before all of the new construction, it was like that pretty much 24/7 for about 20 years. Over here on the right is where the old Boston Garden used to be. We're building there now a multi-million-dollar retail and condo complex. I come through here at night to go home. There's a station, commuter rail and city transit in here, North Station. And about a month ago, I asked one of the police officers here, so when's the building going to be done here? We're all excited about it. And he said October. This was in September. And, I said, oh, okay, so next year. And he said, no. What's today, the 28th? He meant this month. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, they're trying their hardest, I guess, to complete it. Maybe they'll open a portion of it. Here is where the main entrance is, where all the materials come into. Here in the West End is where Leonard Nimoy was born, as well as Leonard Bernstein, famous American composer. Over here on the right is a federal building named after Tip O'Neill, Speaker of our House for 10 years. He was a nice guy, decent politician. He and former President Reagan were friends. They were able to duke it out during office hours around policy and then go out and have a beer after work. My kind of friendship. Down here on the left on Lancaster Street is where Whitey Bulger's office used to be. He wasn't such a nice guy. No. He terrorized our city in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He was an Irish mob boss for the Irish Mafia. He was like the Tony Soprano of the Irish mob here in the city. He was caught a couple of years ago, and through his trial we found out, geez, we were all thinking, how did he get away with it for so long without ever being arrested? He and several FBI personnel were colluding protection for information. And plus, Whitey Bulger was paying them off. So, yeah, if you see the movies Black Mass and or The Departed, they're about him. Right now we're sitting in the middle of our original 3.5 square mile peninsula that we were founded on. The tail's over here on the left, a couple of more blocks up, and it runs for about 1/3 of a mile. It's all filled in today, of course. And we're at 52 square miles as of today, with all of the filling in of the land we've incrementally have done throughout the past couple of hundred years. We're a big hospital town. We have several. The Massachusetts General Hospital is right over here on the right, across the street, right behind this building here. I don't usually point out buildings we can't see, but in this case, I enjoy talking about the Massachusetts General Hospital because it's world renowned for having the first successful reattachment of a limb, and the first successful organ transplant, and the first successful use of ether. It was established in 1811 as a Harvard teaching hospital, and it still is today. We're also a big college town. We have over 50 schools in the city. Our demographics change with schools in session. As it is now, 1/3 of our city are students. Over here on the right, if anyone on board has seen the movie The Departed, this building may look familiar to you. That's where Martin Scorsese shot it. That's where Matt Damon ran up and down the stairs. So this building is part of our multi-building government center complex, about 10 buildings. The style of architecture, it's called brutalism, and that particular style is called corduroy. This next building on the right is a federal courthouse named after Edward Brooke. As Tip O'Neill, Ed Brooke was a decent guy. He was a decent politician. He also was the first African-American man to be voted into the U.S. Senate, 1966. So you guys have a free day later on? What time does the bus leave for Philly? Oh, nice. You have some time.
Yeah, drop me off there, please. Yeah.
Most people who live in the city here, we're similar to San Francisco and Manhattan in this way. Most people who work in the city do not live here. About 130,000 people every day during the week travel into the city to work. So for the average American salary, whatever you may read, or what, it's always different where you read those kind of statistics. Let's say between 30 and 70,000. One at that point is moving 30 to 50 miles out. Yeah. Now at that point, real estate for something decent starts at around $350. Over here on the left, this brick building, it looks nondescript. However, on the bottom floor is this really wonderful market, which I enjoy. It's Whole Foods times 10. You will pay that $5 a radish, but it's really pretty. It's beautifully laid out. So if you guys think of it, after the tour and all, you go in here. It's really pretty. You'll enjoy it in there. It's really nice. The bagels in there are great too, and they're relatively inexpensive. They're only $2.25, the bagels. Right above the Bell in Hand on the left is where Ben Franklin's parents owned a soap and candle making shop. Ben Franklin worked for them over there. These 6 glass towers are the Holocaust Memorial. Each of the towers represent a camp in occupied Poland, and in each of the towers there are etched 1 million serial numbers. And behind there is the Blackstone Commercial District. It's the oldest commercial district in the U.S., along with Union Oyster House Restaurant, 1826, the oldest restaurant in the U.S. This brick building on the left with the gold dome, that's Faneuil Hall, 1742, nicknamed the Cradle of Liberty, as that's where a lot of our heated, passionate debates were given leading up to the American Revolution. And behind there is Quincy Market. Lots of cafes and stores. Right in front of Faneuil Hall is a statue of Sam Adams, leading rebel rouser, leading us into the American Revolution. Diagonally across the street on the right, that's the old British State House, 1713. It's the oldest standing British structure here in the city. On the balcony in front is where the Declaration of Independence was read for the first time in Massachusetts, July 18th, 1776, as it took a few weeks to get up here from Philadelphia, right? In front of the old British State House is where the Boston Massacre happened, March 5th, 1770. That's when British troops who guarded their state house opened fire on an unarmed crowd, killing 5, wounding 8. John Adams, Sam Adams' cousin, was an attorney during those days, and John Adams defended the British troops regarding that incident, as Parliament called it during those days. After the British fled the city in 1776, we took over that building for one of our government buildings for about 100 years. There is a museum inside there if you care to get more information. It's a nominal fee, I think. It's only $5 or $6. A lot of the museums here are 25 and up. There are a lot of artifacts in there, including clothing and documents from the days leading up to the Revolution. On this site here is where Ben Franklin's brother had a printing press, and Ben Franklin worked for him there as well as his parents' shop down the street. This tea kettle on the right, 1872. It's the first trademark in the U.S. A couple of blocks down on the right-hand side is where Alexander Graham Bell made his first phone call. So this is the heart of our government center. This is all that brutalistic architecture that was built in the 60s that no one really cares for here. I don't know anyone that does. So different architectural organizations since the inception of these buildings in the 60s has voted it every year, twice in 1 year, as the ugliest buildings in the U.S. We agree.
Oh, yeah.
On the left is King's Chapel Burying Ground, 1630. It's the oldest burying ground. Well, that's not true. It's 1631's older, 1629. Down back of us a little bit. 1630. Mary Chilton is buried there. She's the first girl to step off the Mayflower. William Dawes is buried there as well. Dawes is a little known in our history books. However, he was one of the few riders who did make it all the way to Lexington and Concord on April 18th, 1775. As opposed to Paul Revere, as I mentioned earlier, he and several of the other riders did not. This is Granary Burying Ground, 1660. 5 of the signers of the Declaration of Independence are buried there. Go back.
Mark with the umbrella.
We're gonna take a right here at the Satellites. This is Boylston Street, where the Boston Marathon race runs down, and where the Boston Marathon finish line is on. And of course, where the Boston Marathon bombing happened. If you see the movie Patriots Day, it's a good movie. However, only from only from a mainstream media point of view. You could literally paste all the headlines together for that whole time frame and get the movie. It's well done, I think. I've seen it twice. Mark Wahlberg is in it, local boy. This is Central Burying Ground. A lot of British troops are buried there, as they had used the Common for their campground back when they were here from 1768 to 1776. So during those days, the fence going around the Boston Common was our shoreline when the two lanterns were hung in Old North Church to alert Paul Revere that the British were leaving by the water route. They left right from here on longboats. And they made it all the way to Cambridge, Mass, where they were stopped by muddied land, and they got out and they marched about 10 more miles to Lexington and Concord. On the left is where Edgar Allan Poe was born. He was simply born here, guys. He never liked the city. He didn't really spend any significant amount of time here. What you're going to do is come back to this set of lights here. Go right through the park on the left. This park on our left is the Boston Public Garden, 1837. It's the oldest botanical garden in the U.S. It's designed loosely based on Versailles. It's my favorite part of the city. The make way for duckling statues are in this park. I'll point them out down here on the end, which are really cute. You gotta look a little bit though, they're not that evident. So if you look over here on the left, the make way for duckling statues, see Mom Duck and her babies? Yep. So yeah, they're based on the book, Make Way for the Ducklings. Which, the book is based on a true story of a police officer here at the corner stopping traffic to help Mom Duck and her babies cross. This is the Beacon Hill area. This is considered by many to be the most prestigious neighborhood in the city. Former Secretary of State John Kerry lives up here, as Jack Welch. A lot of the old famous poets lived up here, such as Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Robert Frost, who coined the term, good fences make good neighbors. Henry Thoreau, Louisa May Alcott, author of Little Women. This white building on the left is the Somerset Men's Club, 1871. It's infamous for denying JFK entrance because he was Catholic and Irish. Yeah, we're at the top of the hill. Over here on the left is our State House. Nice building. I love this building. 1798. It's the third oldest in the U.S., right behind Maryland and Virginia. The dome is 24-karat gold leaf. I'm going to just pause for a sec. If you just quickly look over here behind that tree, that's the Robert Gould Shaw Memorial. Robert Gould Shaw led the 54th Regiment in the Civil War, which was the first African-American troop fighting in the Civil War. He and his parents lived up here in Beacon Hill. They were abolitionists. These two statues on the left in front of the State House, the one to the left is of Horace Mann, father of public education. He made public education kinder and gentler. Before him, corporal punishment. Daniel Webster is right on the left, a statue of him. He was a famous orator and statesman and an attorney. He, as an attorney, went before the Supreme Court 268 times and won almost half those cases. The statue on the left of General Hooker on his horse. He was an infamous general in the Civil War. This statue on the left of Mary Dyer sitting down. During the 1600s, the Puritans hung her in the common in front of her family simply for speaking out for her religious freedom. We're coming towards the end of our trip. We have another 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. Right across the street on the right is the Omni Parker House Hotel, 1850s. It's the oldest continuously running hotel in the country. It has a quirky history. Ho Chi Minh was a pastry chef there. Malcolm X was a busboy there. John Wilkes Booth stayed there 1 week prior to assassinating Lincoln. JFK proposed to Jackie O there. Maybe some other women, but I don't know that. No, just kidding. And that's home to the Boston cream pie. Guys, that's a simple dessert. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's white cake. I guess, I've just recently learned that it's pretty popular in other states, I guess. Other people know about it. So I probably don't have to explain it to you. Someone brought us down a cake from here, the Boston cream pie cake, down to our home base, down where I picked you guys up near that area. It was this big, and someone told me it was $80, but it was so good. It was delicious. It fed all of us, so it was pretty big size. Over here on the left is our old city hall. We used it for that purpose up until the 1960s. And right now we're on School Street, where the first public school was established in the U.S. Yep, and across the street on the right, the brick building, the church-like building, that's the Old South Meeting House. That's where the Boston Tea Party left from on December 16, 1773. That's when 30-plus patriots marched down in disguise as Native American Indians in protest of taxation without representation, among other things, to the harbor, which is about 5 blocks this way. And once they got there, they overturned 342 chests of tea into the harbor, worth at that time $70,000.
Wow.
Yeah, took about 4 hours to overturn all those chests of tea. Once we get down to where the Boston Tea Party Museum is, I'll continue on with that piece. It's nice, I think, to get a visual and talk a little bit more about it. Right now, we're in the financial district. We're the 3rd largest in finance in the country, right behind Wall Street and Chicago. In 1872, a fire swept through here for 2 days uncontrolled. It's called the Great Fire. It decimated the area, 65 acres, wiped out 700 plus buildings down. Everything up until then was mostly made out of wood. We also wrote a book about it, it's called The Great Fire. So some of the variables to contribute to the fire raging out of control for so long: it was a time of the horse flu, and that's what pulled our fire apparatuses, and they were not available. And the fireboxes were locked per order of the city officials to prevent vandalism. I know. And it was pretty windy out, causing the fire to jump more easily from building to building. We used all the rubble from that fire to fill in the Seaport District. So the city is 90% land filled. Beacon Hill, where we just were, we took down a piece of to fill in the areas down around where I picked you guys up, down in that general area. The silver building with the slatted front is the Federal Reserve Bank. So we used to print money there, but no longer. We now use it as an administrative building for the federal government. We're down in and around the Seaport District right now. Excuse me. These little glass structures here are part of our... The Milky White glass was designed by famous architect designer I.M. Pei, who also designed the front of the Louvre in Paris. This is South Station. So it's a commuter rail, mostly bringing people into work, into the city. But there is also a city subway in there that's local. It's a nice building. I like this building. It's a historical building. Opening day, New Year's Day, 1900. We're going to take a left here. This set of lights. These older buildings in front of us used to be one of our industrial areas, and it was abandoned as such in the 1960s. And today it's similar to Soho. Across the bridge on the right, that's the Boston Tea Party Museum. The ship on the side is a replica of one of the original Tea Party ships, so that's where it all happened on December 16, 1773. After the tea was dumped, King George over in England was angry, and he punished the city by blockading the harbor, so no imports and exports could come and go. He sent an additional 3,000 British troops over. We were already occupied by about 7,000 British troops. And keep in mind, during those days, our population was only about 23,000. Then King George made a law called the Quartering Act, which forced the local people living here to house, feed, and clothe all of these extra British troops for free. And that's why in our U.S. Constitution, one of our amendments strictly prohibits the military from ever doing that again. It more or less began in 1765 when Parliament enacted the Stamp Act on the colonists. It was a tax on all our paper goods, such as books and calendars, and the colonists vehemently opposed it, and Parliament backed down. A couple of months later, it was repealed, but that was the beginning of the end. 10 years later, the Revolution. This area here is the Seaport District. All this new building here, built up in the past 17 years. It's a very palpable area around nightlife. Very, some people are calling it Las Vegas East. Yeah, it's kind of getting to be one of those kind of areas. I know. It's a nice area, very pricey, as you can imagine, to live and or, eat. A lot of restaurants down there. A lot of restaurants down there. By the way, if anyone would like any recommendations for food, please feel free. Here in 1950, we built an elevated highway. We tore it down in the 90s. It was part of the Big Dig project. So at the time, that was the largest civil transportation project in the world. We put the highway underneath us. And we also built the Ted Williams Tunnel, which runs underneath the harbor. It's the deepest tunnel dug in North America. This bridge over here is my favorite bridge. This rusty bridge here. It's one of those old turnstile bridges. It's broke in the open position. couple of MIT students designed it around 1913. MIT was established here in the city in 1861 before moving over to Cambridge in 1916. Over here is James Hook across the street, famous for its lobster rolls. They put a little spritz of lemon and salt and pepper, and that's it. So it's all lobster meat. Did you know prisoners 100 years ago were fed lobster?
Torture.
Yes. So much so that they were sick of it. They complained. The clock tower up ahead on the left is also called the Custom House. Part of the 1700s, part of this area used to be water, and ships used to be able to sail right up to the Custom House. That's actually where I picked you up, right on the side, on the right-hand side of that. And they'd go up to the Custom House, and that's where they would get their goods checked in. The building is also called the Tower of Four Lives. The four clocks that surround the top piece never tell the right time, ever. So we're just about a block or two away from where I picked you up, just to give you an orientation of where we're at. Now, I'm gonna pass by, right, see where the umbrellas are up here, up ahead. Now, if you all want to continue on the trip, I recommend you starting from there and then go on. If you have a map and can figure out all the other stops, that's great. Go ahead. There's 9 stops. That's our stop 1 up here on the right where the red umbrella is. You're all set. You don't need to do anything. Just wait in line. And I'm going to be pulling over towards the left up here. This is the long, what we came by here earlier. This is the Long Wharf area. All right, guys, well, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it and enjoy your afternoon. So if you want to continue on with the tour, you can just go right down in back of us, about a block, and you'll see our kiosk there.